Not everything that looks good under the hood really is. Some engines, despite the reputation of the brands that created them, turned out to be real disasters. Can you imagine investing in a car only to end up stranded on the road due to a faulty engine? Well, many gearheads have gone through that. Today, we'll explore the worst engines ever made, the ones that left drivers stranded and repair shops overwhelmed. Get ready, you might even recognize some of them. BMW N63. The BMW N63 engine, while powerful, hides dangerous traps for those not paying attention. The turbos, which should be one of its biggest draws, turn into a real nightmare due to frequent overheating. This problem not only causes oil leaks but can also compromise overall performance. For true gearheads, understanding the lubrication system's fragility in this engine is essential. In fact, it's a good habit to check the oil level more frequently than recommended by the manufacturer. After all, who wants to risk seeing an engine explode due to lack of oil? One of the most frustrating aspects of the N63 is its fragile valve train. This part of the engine, which should be robust enough to handle daily and sporty use, is one of the first to show problems. Imagine a luxury car like a BMW, which should epitomize performance and sophistication, failing at something so crucial. For gearheads who love customizing their cars, it's worth investing in high-quality replacement parts to minimize these chronic issues and extend the engine's life. And if you think these are the only problems, think again. The N63's oil system is also far from reliable. When the engine is deprived of oil, things go south quickly. A simple tip to avoid headaches: invest in high-quality oil and stick to a strict maintenance routine. After all, it's pointless to have a powerful engine if it's constantly at risk of failing due to avoidable issues. This reminds us that engine problems aren't exclusive to BMW, which brings us to another interesting example. Volkswagen 2.0 TSI. The Volkswagen 2.0 TSI is one of those engines that deceives with its appearance. At first glance, it seems like the perfect choice for those looking for a good balance between performance and economy. However, behind this attractive facade lie problems that any experienced gearhead needs to know about. One of the biggest culprits here is the fuel injectors, which seem prone to failure, causing performance irregularities and increasing fuel consumption. Imagine being on the road and suddenly feeling the car sputter. This can be avoided with preventative maintenance focused on these critical components. Another issue that keeps many owners of cars equipped with the 2.0 TSI awake at night is the water pump. This component, essential for cooling the engine, suffers from questionable durability, often failing earlier than expected. This leads to overheating, which can compromise not just the engine but other important parts of the car as well. For those living in hot regions, an early water pump replacement can be a smart strategy to avoid bigger headaches. It's the kind of detail only the most attentive gearheads can predict and solve. And of course, we can't forget about the timing chain tensioner, another weak point of this engine. If this system fails, the consequences can be catastrophic for the engine's operation. In some cases, it's advisable to replace the tensioner even before it shows signs of wear. That way, you avoid bigger problems down the road. As they say, prevention is better than cure, especially when dealing with engines that seem designed to fail. And speaking of failures, another famous manufacturer also faces challenges with its engines. Subaru EJ and FB series. Subaru's EJ and FB engines are known among gearheads for their toughness, but also for a chronic problem that seems to follow the brand for years: head gasket failures. The issue is so common that it's almost a rite of passage for anyone who owns a Subaru. This failure causes oil and coolant to mix, which can lead to overheating and severe damage if not addressed quickly. For the more experienced, a valuable piece of advice is to stay alert for the first signs of leakage and replace the gasket before the problem worsens. Despite the trust many have in the brand, this head gasket issue has persisted for decades. And as if that weren't enough, these engines also face problems with excessive oil consumption, which only worsens the situation. For those who like to extract maximum performance from their engine, a solution could be opting for high-performance head gaskets from specialized brands. This not only helps mitigate the issue but also ensures greater durability and reliability under extreme conditions. And speaking of extreme conditions, many Subaru owners love taking their cars off-road, where the demand on the engine is even greater. To avoid the infamous gasket issue manifesting during one of these adventures, regular checkups are essential. After all, no one wants to be left stranded in the middle of a trail because of a failure that could have been prevented. Speaking of complex engines, the next one takes complexity to a whole new level. GM Northstar engine. The GM Northstar engine is undoubtedly one of the most complex engines General Motors has ever produced. And this complexity brings with it a considerable list of problems, especially when we talk about head bolts. Imagine the frustration of a gearhead realizing that these bolts can't handle the required torque, and end up coming loose over time. This results in leaks and overloads the engine, turning maintenance into a real nightmare. A useful tip for those with a Cadillac equipped with this engine is to consider reinforcing these components with more reliable aftermarket parts. Another complicated aspect of the Northstar is the cost and difficulty of repairs. When the engine presents a problem, it's often necessary to remove it entirely to make repairs, which drives up costs and makes the process time-consuming. For enthusiasts, this could mean weeks without the car, in addition to a hefty repair bill. This engine, which should represent Cadillac's luxury excellence, often becomes a constant headache for those expecting reliable performance and simple maintenance. And as if the bolts and difficult access weren't enough, the Northstar also suffers from overheating issues. Over time, the cooling system starts to fail, and the engine can easily overheat, causing irreversible damage. To avoid this situation, regular coolant changes and keeping the system clean are crucial. But of course, complex engine problems aren't exclusive to Cadillac. Another automotive giant also faces challenges with a specific engine. Hyundai, Kia Theta engines. Hyundai and Kia's Theta engines have become known for their catastrophic failures, especially due to oil and coolant mixing. This problem creates a sludge that eventually destroys the engine from the inside. For a gearhead, this is a nightmare waiting to happen. The reliability many expect from a South Korean car simply doesn't apply here. A valuable recommendation for those who still own a car with this engine is to constantly check the condition of the oil and coolant to prevent the dreaded buildup of residue. The most frustrating thing about this engine is the feeling that failure is inevitable. Many owners report that even with regular maintenance, the engine eventually fails. The mixing of fluids not only affects performance but can also lead to the complete seizure of the engine. For those truly wanting to avoid the problem, some experts suggest replacing key components with higher quality parts or even considering an engine swap if the vehicle is a long-term project. What makes this situation even worse is the fact that Theta engines were used in several popular models, such as the Hyundai Sonata and Kia Optima. This means that thousands of drivers are at risk of facing these issues. For true gearheads, avoiding models equipped with this engine might be the best strategy. And speaking of engines with a history of mass failures, the next example is one of the largest recall scandals in automotive history. Chrysler 2.7L V6. The Chrysler 2.7L V6 engine is known in the automotive world as the Sludge Factory, a nickname no gearhead wants to hear. This engine became famous for its propensity to create internal sludge, the result of problems with seals and the cooling system. The mixture of oil with other fluids creates a thick layer that impairs the engine's function, leading to serious failures and, in many cases, complete engine replacement. To avoid this issue, more experienced owners adopt shorter oil change intervals and constantly monitor the quality of the coolant. What makes the situation even worse is the fact that this engine was present in many popular models, such as the Chrysler Sebring and Dodge Intrepid. This led to one of the largest recalls in automotive history in the United States. For true gearheads, these models are territory to be avoided. Even with regular maintenance, the risk of catastrophic failure is always looming. And when that happens, repair options are usually neither cheap nor easy. The infamous sludge problem is just one of the many problematic aspects of the 2.7L V6. The head gasket and sealing system are other components that frequently fail, worsening the engine's reliability. The most common recommendation among experts is to avoid buying cars with this engine, or, if you're passionate about these models, to invest heavily in preventive maintenance. But of course, even big truck engines can have their own engineering dilemmas. Ford Triton V8. The Ford Triton V8, despite powering the best-selling vehicle in the United States, the Ford F-150, is far from problem-free. One of the biggest nightmares any gearhead can face with this engine is the infamous spark plug issue. They tend to break during removal, complicating what should be a simple maintenance task. Many experienced mechanics recommend extreme caution when attempting to change these plugs and even suggest using special tools to avoid premature wear or breakage. Another major issue with the Triton V8 is the timing chain tensioner. When this component starts to fail, the symphony of problems it causes can be heard clearly. The sound of a chain rattling in the engine is a clear warning that major repairs are on the way. For gearheads, replacing this component proactively can prevent a total engine collapse. And of course, keeping the engine well lubricated with high-quality oil helps reduce the risk of failure in this vital system. Additionally, the Ford Triton V8 also has serious issues with the valve actuator. Failure in this component not only affects performance but can also permanently damage the engine. For those who love extracting maximum power and longevity from their vehicles, regular maintenance of these parts is crucial. Despite being an iconic engine, the Triton has its weaknesses. And speaking of robust engines that faced great challenges, the next one on the list is another intriguing example. So, after learning about these engines, the question is, are you ready to make smarter choices when buying your car? The truth is, no one wants to be stuck with a problematic engine, especially when there are so many better options on the market. Now that you know what to avoid, how about sharing this knowledge with other gearheads out there? And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning about the best and worst in the automotive world. Your next car could be the best investment you ever make.